Welcome round the table to Coffee with Crones, and tonight we have an extra crone sitting at the table. It's the lovely Kelly White. She's joining us for a special sort of chat today, and she'll be telling you a little bit more about what she does in the chat that we have. Yeah. Anything from the other ladies? Anything about your solstice celebrations? I went to the sun.
Oh, you was on holiday.
I was on holiday and I literally woke up early, went into the sea, floated in the sea, and I did a little water ritual with the sun on my face and the sea at my back. So that's
beautiful.
That was all I wanted to do.
I held a full moon circle online over Zoom, the first one I've done for ages, and it was beautiful. There was 9 ladies, and it was such a lovely experience. And then I just went to sleep because I was tired.
Well, I was in the woodland at a little festival, and I realised after I achieved my lifelong dream of being a potter in the Lake District. So I ran a little workshop, and afterwards I was like, I've done it, I've been a potter in the Lake District. So that was my little manifesting dream.
What did you make?
We made bowls with leaf and bark impressions in them. So it was like taking away a little piece of the woodland. So yeah.
Lovely.
It's great.
Did you do anything, Callie, for solstice?
Well, I also held an online ceremony, which is part of I'm following the Wheel of the Year, so we've kind of been building a lovely community of women. We all come together online, and we journey to the sacred stones, because for me, like many of us, the sacred stones, the stone circles are really important. So we journeyed to connect with the ancient ancestors. So that was lovely. And then actually the solstice itself is my mum's birthday, so she came here for the weekend. So we had a lovely time out and about, and went to a nice restaurant and went for a walk around the tarn. And so I wasn't kind of, doing my usual ritual stuff that I do on the weekend, but it was still lovely. Yeah.
That's so nice.
Yeah.
I think, a few people that I've spoken to have sort of said the same thing. They've not done the usual thing. They've just sort of been really restful, really present, and just enjoyed the moment.
Yeah.
So it seems like that was like a little bit of a theme this year with people, especially people like us who are always teaching and out there doing ceremony and being in the spotlight. I just didn't want any of that. I just felt with the energies, I just needed to just be very, very quiet and just hold space in a really different way, and hold space for myself, more importantly. So that was interesting.
Yeah. Even though I was in the woodland with lots of different activities that I could have gone to, I chose not to, and I chose to hang back and sit with the trees and just really take that moment to kind of take a breath and rest into it, really. So
Was it a festival?
yeah, it was like a little kind of creativity festival. So yeah, it was lovely.
That's nice.
So we're going to ask you, we're going to pick your brains, because everyone likes to know people's journeys. I think that's what I think is so fascinating, and that everyone's so different and yet everyone's just the same. So just tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do and how you got there.
Okay. Well, first, I just want to say thank you for having me as your first guest, Coffee with Crones. Feels really wonderful to be with you all, and I've really enjoyed watching the videos you've already put out, and the homely, everyday groundedness about you all. So it's really wonderful to be here. I think my journey really has come through my own healing process, which began years ago, training as a psychotherapist, and then into ecotherapy, and then rites of passage work. And then when I went through menopause in 2017, 2018, perimenopause, the ancestors came knocking, and as part of that exploration, if you like, the ancestors from what I call the burning times, the times of the witch hunts, started to come through in the shamanic journeys that I was doing, and so there was a whole lot of healing that came through for myself with that, but then it was like they were instructing me to take the work out further to help other women understand inherited trauma. So I was kind of never really I would never have considered myself a witch. I was never into that whole world. So it's through the ancestors that I've an ancestral connection, and I've trained to be an ancestral healing practitioner. So that's kind of how I got into it, and it's led to all sorts of magic. So now I like being a witch.
That's amazing.
And just tell us a little bit more about your weekend coming up in August, the Witches Revival.
So the Witches Revival is it's a 3-day weekend in Lancaster, which I know you all know and love so well. And Lancaster's a great place, isn't it? Because of the history of the Pendle Witch Trials, the Lancaster Trials. You know, there's a lot of kind of witchy heritage and history there. So it always feels very safe to do this work in Lancaster. But we're gathering at there's a lovely venue there called The Story, and we're basically taking the whole place over. It's the second year. I think you all came last year to the first one. And our theme this year is Wise Woman. Wise Woman calls us home. So at the heart of it is an experience where you get to meet 6 of the wise woman archetypes from around the world, because what's really interesting is every culture has a wise woman archetype, and in every culture she's been denigrated and belittled and cast out. Not every culture, but the more Western cultures. So that the idea is it's like let's re-look at the second half, third bit of our lives post menopause, and reclaim some of the power that's there. So it's not really an exhibition, it's an experience that looks a bit like an exhibition. And then out of that we've got loads of different workshops. We've got 20 odd facilitators coming to do a lot of different workshops. We've got the Witches Emporium, which is more than just your normal marketplace. What's really important to us is we want to kind of platform and celebrate women's creativity. So all of our stall holders make their own things. It's part of their own inner journey. And last year it was just a magical place, and I know Ruby was in there, and you're going to be back this year. And
well, we're both going to be there.
We're both going to be there this year, and and so it's about learning. So we've got willow weaving, we've got soap making, we've got all of your magical offerings. You make a lot of stuff. Ruby makes a lot of stuff. We've got authors and all sorts of stuff. So it's a place for having creative conversations and getting inspired. So it's a full weekend about reclaiming the wisdom, the power, the magic of the wise woman, and people can come for 1 day, 2 day, 3 days, whatever. We've got some evening events, and we've got the garden, and it's just it was last year was magical. It's like women coming together, finding each other, like-minded women, having some juicy conversations and heartfelt conversations, and just flipping that switch and going within and finding more of our authentic selves, really.
There's the exhibition as well, in the art exhibition in the event.
So that's the I Am Wise Woman. So that's part of the Wise Woman experience. So you meet the 6 from around the world, and each of them have got an invitation, and there's some activities, and it's really hard to explain because it's such an experience, but it's designed to take women deep and on a journey. And then the final piece is we're calling it I Am Wise Woman. So it's like you've met all the archetypes, now it's over to you, like who's your wise woman? And that's been a group of women that Ruby and I held through a process to discover that, and they've all painted their version of wise woman. So we've got 15 pretty awesome paintings.
Yeah, so we did that in 2 halves, didn't we? Because there was Sally in Hebden and then me in Lancaster, and you were with both.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's going to be magic. And tickets, if you want to come, tickets are selling really quick. There's like a limited number. We'll put a link in the description, so get your ticket as quick as possible.
I'm just so sad I'm not coming. I'm always booked for something else. But I came to the first one you did, the I Am Witch exhibition at the Story, and that was an experience. That was incredible. Like it was so powerful seeing all the flags, the spoon flags. And I think they showed on that documentary, didn't they, the little programme that Jonathan
we were
Ross
on a
did.
Jonathan Ross
documentary.
yeah.
I think he showed it really well. And
the Medicine Spoon Memorial. So that was one of the pieces of the full I Am Witch exhibition, which was the kind of forerunner to the Witches Revival. And the memorial's still going, and we've kind of got more plans coming with that. But it honours the 4,000 women that were persecuted as witches during the times of the witch hunts. So it's quite a moving thing, you know. It's
really
emotional and quite a powerful thing. So
And it was so interesting when I came to your workshop earlier this year and made my own medicine spoon memorial. Like that was a really I did look up the lady afterwards. I did search her, and I think I found her name.
What was it? Can you remember?
Oh gosh, it's gone out of my head now. But I looked up her name, and she was based down in Devon. So I found her name in a big long list of names, and I read all of them, and then it was just reading that list. So one thing seeing all the spoon flags with all of those names, but then it was quite another thing seeing just that list and scrolling through and then finding a name. Thankfully it was in alphabetical order, but it was still scrolling through. But it's been a big old journey. And I think honouring the women in that way, it's like we're healing ourselves, and we're helping to heal them too. And when we think of them as ancestors, and it wasn't really that long ago, it was like 300 years ago. We've all descended from those lineages, right? So we all carry the memory of being, the fear of persecution, but also of persecuting each other, because the women weren't always the victims. So that's kind of been a big part of my work actually since menopause, and seeing it all myself is like, oh, I actually carry both sides of this wound. We all do, and sometimes it's hard to own the shadow side of, actually, I've done some things that have hurt other women in my life, and that doesn't feel good, and
I remember looking through my family tree, and I went back, and my family at that point were Puritans. And I was like, no, I'm on the wrong side.
There's been a mistake.
Yeah.
Stop.
That's what it was like. I was like, no, I can't have anything to do with that.
Explains a lot, really. The rebel in you, pushing back.
Yeah, it was so weird.
It's all interesting. I think you've sort of talked about the healing of that, and for a lot of, and you've talked about menopause. So my little thing is I pick up vocabulary, what words they use a lot in, and that tells me a lot about the person and that. But that's a side thing. But so you've mentioned menopause and that, and obviously we coffee with Crones. Some people have been very kind and said we don't look like crones. And I think being a crone or a wise woman, is more an attitude or a lifestyle than an age, a linear age thing. And certainly menopause, and when it does hit, and I've been going through it for about 7 years now. Yay. I just can't wait to be out of it. But it's sort of like an initiation period.
Passage, yeah.
And what I find interesting is that many years ago those women would then retreat from all the normal everyday stuff and take a year out of society, which we don't allow ourselves to do anymore. And I think that probably eased what they went through and gave them a sort of a rite of passage in a way. But I don't think you necessarily have to be in the menopause or going through the menopause to be a crone. I don't know what you feel about that. I think there's some young people, because I've felt like a crone for years and years and years. I've always been the old soul, if you know what I mean. So I don't think, it's just interesting to talk about that and say, what makes you feel like a crone? What is it? Age? Is it the menopause? Is it something else?
Because quite a few people have asked that, haven't they, in the comments? About the word crone, the meaning of it, who it is.
Crone is crown.
Yeah.
The crowned one.
Yeah.
The crowned one.
So I still bleed, so I'm not in menopause yet. I've had a few little symptoms, hot flushes and stuff. So I'm not there, but I'd still class.
So you're in perimenopause.
Yeah.
Then.
So I'd still class myself now as out of the mother phase. I don't want babies now. Like I'm out of that.
I've never been a mother, so
right.
I've never physically. I've lost a baby, but I've never been. I had a pregnancy which didn't go through, but I've never been a mother. But I've been a mother in so many other ways.
Yeah.
So I don't think that the physicality of having children anyway just again puts you in that phase. I think it's a state of mind, it's a way of being, same as crone is.
I think for me though, my journey of it has been that before I knew anything was, if you bleed you're not pregnant, if you don't bleed you're pregnant. So that was always the thing, and Tom and I tried for years and years, and it never happened. But I have got children from the past relationship, but now my bleed is much more than that. It's not that at all. That's just like 12 hours in the whole month of, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I actually feel like I kind of don't want to stop bleeding. Like I feel that's my sacred pause. You
make a big thing of your moon time. Yeah. We don't even film if Ruby's on moon time.
What was that? She's a diva, isn't she?
No, but what I think is, I'm just making fun of it like that, but I think that's part of who you are, is you really hold that time sacred for yourself.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, it's absolutely honouring that,
it is what we used to do.
Yes.
It is what we used to do, and so I'm not belittling it or anything like that. I'm really saying it's great that you do that.
Yeah.
And that we all pick different things to make...
To hone in on.
Yeah.
I think
a sacred time.
That's the only time in the month though that I can... It sounds weird, but I give myself permission to fully honour that rest. Yeah. Because if it's any other time, I think I should be doing this, I need to be doing that, I've got to do work, I've got to, and even if I do rest, my mind doesn't rest. But as soon as moon time comes, everything I'm like, I can just...
Yeah, because that's your excuse.
Yeah.
But it isn't an excuse, it's I am sacred, my body is sacred, and therefore this is what I'm doing.
And it's honouring that ebb and flow through the month, isn't it, really? Because, I've talked about this recently with a few people where we had that advert in the 80s, like the Tampax advert, where it's like, doesn't matter, girls, you can just pop a Tampax in and you can still do
that still exists.
and roller skating. Probably does, yeah. And it's
Gymnastics.
like you've got to be on all the time and go, and it was very much off the 80s and
Beat
that time.
Mother Nature.
Yeah.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah.
And there was that
Yeah,
one about anti-flow
yeah.
as well coming, and it was like, get anti-flow out, and it was kind of put across in a negative way, I felt. And I was like, I'm not happy about this, because I'm quite okay with my periods, but now they're starting to go and I'm having big gaps between, then I'm kind of missing it, but at the same time I'm excited for the next stage, and I don't know if that's why I'm having an easier, I'm having symptoms and things are happening, but I'm kind of excited about this transition and looking forward to going into my fully into my crone years when everything finally completes and finishes off. So I think I'm quite conscious about being crone positive, and there's been comments in I'm not sure about this word crone, and it always has such negative connotations, or it has done previously, and I like that we are very crone positive, and it's embracing this next phase, and
Menopause changed my life. I loved it. I went through 15 months of extreme symptoms, like all the usual hot flushes, migraines, joint ache. So that I didn't love that at the time. But it's like talking about the cycles. When I was the months that I'd missed and I wasn't bleeding. There's still a cycle if you really tune
Even
in.
now, I haven't bled for 6 years. I still know when my time is. I can feel it in my body.
Yeah,
my body still feels exactly the same.
Yeah, and so every time that came around for me, it was, instead of clearing physically with my blood, it was like, okay, what emotionally needs to be cleared, and the more of that I did, the better I felt, and I've never felt more powerful. Like, and I don't mean that in a kind of, in power over that whole patriarchal paradigm, but just like connected to myself. I know who I am. I know what's important. I know what I want to do. I mean, I'm not fully there. We're always a work in progress, but I've never felt better in myself, in being who I am. And I think that the age thing is interesting, Cindy, because of course there is a wise woman in all of us, right? And we've been conditioned to ignore our intuition, and it's, our culture's all about data and facts and rational brain stuff. But our intuition is our inner wisdom, right? And we all have that, and we've all got to start listening again. Given the chaos in the world, it's becoming increasingly important. And there is a difference when we've gone through menopause. What I've found really interesting is that there are 2 other species of mammals that go through menopause. One is whales, one is elephants, right? Every other species, as soon as the female gets past reproductive age, they die. But with whales and elephants and humans, we have this menopausal period, and there's data and stats coming out now that that's proving, it's evidence that menopausal, the grandmother years, if you like. There's a
I'm going to be a grandmother soon.
Are you?
I'm excited. 21st of December.
Winter solstice.
Sorry, Jenna. And I'm so excited because I've never had my own baby.
You've been amazing, grandmother.
But Paul's got a daughter, and she's having one.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So I'm going to be like a guest superstar granny. And
Oh,
I can't wait.
oh, that baby
Sorry,
was chosen
I just had
well. Well, no, it's important. Grandmothers are important.
Absolutely.
And the menopausal
21st of December.
females become the leaders of the pod or the herd in those species.
Yeah.
And in studies with humans, the
Yes.
children
You're
survive the the levels of survival are higher for children who have grandmothers.
That's amazing.
I just read that the other day.
Wow.
It's like, so there's something that,
Yeah.
and I experienced this, like, it was like a shift in perspective. So here I am running my life, I'm focused here, I'm doing this, all is well. And as I went through that 15 months, because I did give myself permission to stop,
Yeah.
which was, I know, a luxury that most
Yeah.
women don't have. But
Well, I was starting a business at the onset,
Oh,
and I was
God.
like, shit.
oh,
But the business has also allowed me some downtime.
you got
so,
through it.
yeah.
Yeah. So my perspective went from here to, it kind of broadened, which kind of makes sense. It's like, you know, through motherhood we're focused on our own children and our
Nuclear
own family, and then in the tribal days you get beyond that and you're focused on the tribe and the collective.
Yeah.
So there is something unique to the
Yeah.
with the post-menopausal energy. I mean, and it's a whole shift in our brain, in our everything, endocrine
Bodies.
system, and you know.
Yeah.
I'm still exploring it all. I don't have all the answers, of course, but I know for myself I've never felt better, ready. Come on.
I think to me that the age thing is unimportant. I think I'm the oldest sitting around the table. I know I'm older than you two. But
Not that much older.
Not that much older.
so I don't, but I've felt like a crone for a very long time. And then you take that word time again, and like I say, I like to dissect words, and you take that time, and what the hell is time anyway?
An illusion.
And so,
maybe.
and so, I think we're always a crone. I think as a little girl, the things I did, because I was connected to something really, and I talk about the blood that runs through my vein, the bones and the stones. I've always been I've always dug in the mud, I've always picked up bones, I've always held bones, and I've always had that energy, that real knowing, the mysticism about me, because I think I was allowed to be connected.
Connected to the wild, to your wild, part of nature.
Yeah, and we all, I'm sure, you get to teenage years and it's the boobs and the boys and so you lose a bit of it, but then right back after I lost my baby, I was right back there again. I was just really right back there, and I think that also was a big shift, and I just straight away went, do you know what? I'm not all that. I'm this. Do you know what I mean? And I think that gave me permission to be me again, and to be the lovely weirdo that I am, and embrace everything that I am, and go back to there, because I know, but
She is a bit.
when you get to know me, you might take those words back. Because I was like, dead badger. Anyone want to take a photograph?
Yeah.
I wanted to go, dead badger in the road. Need to bury it. I want to dress things with flowers. And there's something about the dead that I love. I'm no necromancer, but I absolutely... There's such an honour in the passing of a life and the returning of a life and of a soul, and I get quite poor. Because if you hadn't been in the car, I would have stopped, and I would have stood with that badger and probably had a minute with the
We
badger.
could have done that though, because that's what
I
I
know.
did when I found the animal.
So I just, and I think being part of that process and really stopping and marking time is really important.
Yeah.
Do you not find as well that, like, when you was a child...
I told you we talk about all sorts of stuff. We just go boom, boom,
I
when we
we don't know wherever it's going.
when we were children, you're at your core essence of what you are, and you do the things that you are. So being in the mud, making potions, all this kind of stuff.
We're not conditioned.
No, and then when you get in your teenage years, adverts, magazines, all of that, all the outside stuff.
And all your body changing and all those obvious body changes that we have as well. It makes us feel really conspicuous.
Aware of your outsideness, aren't you? And then I think at some point you come fully back to your inside part. So now there's nothing better than digging in the mud and putting flowers on a dead badger and all that kind of it, and it's very
It's almost back to being a child.
Yeah,
in a way.
is.
Connected to the sacred, and this is where why so many problems out there is as a culture we're not connected to the sacredness of life and death as part of the cycle, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we all avoid that, whereas I've known to be singing and smiling at a funeral because I think it's such a liberation from this.
Yeah.
Not many people know, but on the 18th of June 1999 I had a fatal car accident. It doesn't make sense, but literally head-on collision, and I was gone. At that point, everyone says they saw light. Well, I didn't see any light. But what transpired was a moment of grace and beauty that it was like lush, theatre-heavy black velvet curtains at that moment, and as clear as a bell, oh, this is what it feels like to die. Next words, and all the angels have been dispatched in my mind. And I wasn't an angel believer. And then that's all what happens, and what I believe happened or don't believe happened, whatever, is obviously very private and very personal. But that experience has made me just know how beautiful and peaceful death is. And so it's just, and it did change my life. Literally that moment when I came back, I gave instructions as clear as a bell. My face was completely smashed and everything, but I gave complete instructions to everyone around me. And then I very quickly sorted my life out. Do. That's it.
Wow.
Yeah. So death is a liberation of the soul, and it's your next level creation, and there's an absolute beauty and awe in it.
You was talking about death, weren't you, earlier, about the reframing of it there?
Yeah.
Talk a bit about that, Callie, because it's interesting.
So, we live in a death-averse culture, right? Yeah. And also, and yes, it's a liberation, and we can dance and sing, we want to celebrate the loss of a loved one, for example, and we also need to grieve, and like grieving, every time I've been to funerals, like everyone's in black, they're not the celebration, and the number of women you hear saying, don't say anything, don't start, they don't want to cry at funerals. It's like, what's the point of them then, You
used to have professional wailers at a funeral.
Keeners, it was a whole ancestral
Sing the bones,
thing.
baby, sing those bones.
So, coming into relationship with death has been a really, a helpful part of my own journey. And I remember when I was doing my psychotherapy training, I was about 32 or something, and there was a woman in her 50s on my course, and we'd go outside at break times and have a chuff together, and she was going through a whole process of facing her death, right? And with ritual and ceremony and all of this, and I was fascinated to hear her stories, but I was thinking, what are you doing that for? Like, that's a strange thing to do, But, fast forward 15, 20 years, it's like, oh, now I really get it. So at the Witches Revival, one of the archetypes is Hecate, who's the, holds the place of the underworld. So we're gonna, like that invitation is to think about death, and it can be, yes, the obvious is the death of a loved one, but then it's our own death. And then it's the death of parts of ourselves, like the old identities, the old belief systems, especially with menopause. That's the through that doorway, it's like you gotta come back full circle to the child in the mud. What do we need to let die in order to reclaim and re-find her, So and I've got a couple of friends coming who have done a lot of work in the whole arena of death and written books, and one of them runs a green burial site, and she's done a one-woman show about death called Outside the Box, and so she's coming and she holds such a beautiful session, and we're going to have a death cafe, and it and it sounds so like, I don't know if I want to go to that, but the amount of fun and joy and laughter and connection that comes from having the conversation.
Have you heard of the Tibetan art of dying, the Bardo? Now my grandmother has her own Bardo group where they practice the art of dying consciously. So leaving your body consciously, choosing when and how, not how, but choosing when. Yes, dear, I hear you.
Part of it is accepting ourselves as we are. As for part of this journey for me is and like going through menopause, perimenopause into it. I've never felt more, even though my body rapidly after 40 is like, well, my eyesight's going, the joints are aching, all these things like going wrong. I've never felt more comfortable in my body, and I feel like it's that I'm accepting myself finally, because I've always had to be who I am in relation to other people. Now I'm like, no, I'm coming into me and who I am, and kind of owning that space really, and just it's very much about acceptance, and I think going back to what we were talking about with death, it's also accepting that inevitability is quite a journey, and so this phase of life for me is about acceptance of what is, and it's not being something, it's being me, if that makes sense. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
That really resonates for me too, and linked to that is my creativity, right? And I love that, the piece of wisdom that says, at menarche a woman meets her power, through motherhood a woman practices her power, and at menopause a woman becomes her power. And so it's like all of our creative energy has gone into our ovaries and our eggs, and then once that stops, it's like we are it. That creative energy we have,
and
access.
It flows really in a different way.
I just want to do my garden. I've got a beautiful garden. I just want to get my hands dirty in the soil and get to know the plants and drop in and learn how to commune on that deeper level, and create some beautiful altars out there and spaces out there. So that's where my heart is being pulled right now.
Do you think that's because it's summer as well? Because I was thinking about this, like my focus is more on the outside, and like in the outside space, because it's good weather. Well, it's meant to be good weather. And then
reality check.
and then in winter I become more inward, so I'll do knitting, crochet, handsy things inside.
Cozy things.
Do you think it could be that too?
I think in terms of like my energy to get out there and do it, of course I do more in the summer months, in the spring and summer, but I really love being out there in the autumn and winter as well, like the clearing away of the dead and the reshaping and the pruning the trees and the, like kind of envisioning the next, kind of growth, more dreaming about the.
That's what I was going to think.
I think, but I'm still out there in the winter.
Me and my coffee first thing every morning, and it's like a little conversation in my head. Whether it doesn't matter what time of the day, doesn't matter what time of the year. In that space, there's things that happen, little conversations that happen, which is really interesting. And in the winter, because we don't go, oh, the grass needs mowing, the hedge needs doing, da-da-da, and now I've got to gather in all the herbs that I grow. And for me, that's really important. You're going to wait for a nice day, wait for the right moon, go, 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 go. So it's all about timing. Whereas winter, you can just be in the space. You don't have to do in the space. You can literally just sit. And my favourite thing in winter is to sit in my greenhouse with a cup of tea, because I've got nice cosy chairs in it. And just enjoy it. So it's a sort of a sitting back thing.
It's like honouring that ebb and flow of the cycle, like that you have that downtime to kind of, and I've really felt it in the last few years, just wanting to like retreat in and be cosy and just relax, rather than being like, oh, it's Christmas, we've got to do all this, go here, there and everywhere, and it's just been like, can relax, can stay in and just honour that rest time of the year. So.
I know Christmas it always strikes me just like, how crazy is it? It's like our bodies, like everything about us wants to slow down.
But let's put on the lights and keep going.
Oh, I can't do it anymore. I don't know how I did it. It's crazy, all the parties and the gatherings and anyway,
What you said before about your, like you've come into yourself, and you said something about you being for other people, and and I really wish that we could tell 20-year-old women this. I was going through my photos the other day, and there's a picture of me, and I'm naked, stood in front of a mirror. I was like, I don't know, maybe 30 even. And I looked so miserable, and then there was a picture of the side of me, because I had a little belly, and it was tiny. I was like half at least the size that I am now, and I looked so sad. And I remember feeling so ugly in my body, because if a man saw me, he'd think I was disgusting. And so it was that projection of the out. And now I'm at least double that. And I dance around naked, and I'm like, but I wish we could harness that.
I wish we could sit a whole lot of 20-year-olds down and say, now, actually listen up. And don't regard us as old fuddy-duddies and old... Just hear our words. And maybe,
But would you listen? Because I think if somebody had told me at 20... You're beautiful, I'd think, no, I'm not. You wouldn't listen, would you? And it's so sad. Because I tell you what, if I could go back to that body now, I'd be like, lottery.
You're running around naked.
Definitely. There'd be no poor Tom. No rest. There'd be no stopping me, but it's crazy. And that is the outward thing, isn't it?
I think that's kind of like the crone energy. It's going, we've seen this before, we've seen the cycles, we've seen these changes when you think that, we can't go through that again. Oh yes, you can, and so much more. And it's all okay. So I think that's kind of grandmother energy, isn't it? That just, when people say like, I wish, what is it, when like you have your parents and they become grandparents to your kids, and then you're like, I wish they were like that with me as my parents, but they're too busy like earning money and doing all the things and bringing you up and making it up as they go along, essentially. I know I do. But when you're grandparents, you kind of go, we've seen this before, we know it's okay, let's just have some fun, or and let's not sweat the small stuff. And that's the energy that it is for me.
Grandparents are so important. Grandmothers.
My grandmothers have been amazing. My paternal grandmother I lost at 15, but she's never been lost. She's always here. And she was the creatrix. She taught me to sew, to stitch. brilliant in the garden, but she had a garden like me, messy garden. But everything grew lush in her garden, if you know what I mean. But she wasn't necessarily one that gardened by the rules. And we called her Mookie. And I have her beautiful kimono arms, flabby arms. And when I look in the mirror, I've got her hair, her nails. It's like I am her and she is me now. There's definitely a merging there. And my maternal grandmother still lives. She's 98 now. And she was the more learned. So she taught me a hell of a lot because she was head lecturer at the Theosophical Society headquarters in Vasanta House, which is New Zealand, and she still stays in New Zealand. So she gave me all the learning work. She introduced me to Nietzsche, to all the, like she was philosopher.
Oh, okay.
So she would be going, you need to read these. This is your book. The first book she gave me to read was Michael Talbot's Holographic Universe, and the second one on the list was Dancing with Woolly Masters. I was in my 20s.
Wow.
Yeah, so she drove that part of me, whereas the other grandma held the other space for me. So I was really, really lucky to have that lovely balance of grandmothers. Mookie cooked and fed you, you know. And the other one gave you the rules. And I remember that Granny Val, standing, I had a big farm in South Africa, and I had a fuchsia patch and a rose patch, and it was a lot of garden. And she stood and she was looking around. She was on one of her first visits, having a cup of tea out, and she didn't mince her words, did Granny Val? Or she still doesn't, I'm sure. And she looked at me and she said, "Yes, the garden is a reflection of the soul, and yours is a mess."
Oh, funny.
Yeah. But she was that kind of granny,
bless.
just told it to you like, sort yourself out, chick.
The direct telling of that wise woman energy.
Yeah. No filter.
And so do you, and as well as, you had the creativity and the feeding and the nurturing, but then the rules, but it sounds like more than rules. It's about the importance of education and learning and expanding your mind and, because a woman in those days, education was, was still not what it is today still. I mean, there was more, but... she still lectured. She only retired at 90. Wow. Yeah. She was still looking after the library. And she sounds like an incredible woman.
Yeah. Knew when to play the old granny thing and knew when to she met Paul the first time. Now she's all of 96 or something, and she sits next to Paul. She goes, "You got a good one." She grabs his leg and he was like, "What do I do with this woman?" And she was like, "You got a good one here, And she's feeling him up, and he's like, "Help." Deer in the headlights. Yeah, she's amazing. She's amazing, yeah. I just haven't seen her in years because it's New Zealand so far away to go.
And do you feel like you've kind of integrated both of those? It's like
I struggle with the head stuff, but we both agree that we're both neurodivergent, and I think I am a little bit autistic as well. So
aren't you doing some kind of thesis though? You're studying.
I am, but I push myself to do all those things. So, but it does overwhelm me, and so words overwhelm me, and so when I read those kind of books, which I do, and I do often, I'll sit with. This is how I get myself through all the studies that I've done, is I sit with my own book and I'll read a bit and then I'll write. And once I've written it in my own words, I'm okay. So I do a little bit of that, and I do a lot of highlighting and then I'll find I've drawn something, gone off on it, but then I have to go back to things. So there's books that I've read, and then reread, and then reread. So yeah, some books I find hard going, but I have read a lot in my lifetime, and I just keep doing it. But yeah, words overwhelm me. Too many words, like your message on how to get you. I just said to Ruby, I can't, just tell me the important bits. Leave out all the other stuff. Oh my God, la.
Sorry.
No, but it's just how different brains work, isn't it? Just tell me, point A, turn left, point B, turn right. I can only deal with, and it's just how different brains work.
And
No.
I said, I had to listen to it twice, and I was like, I don't know what she's on about. Because if you'd have said turn left and right, that means nothing. But if you'd have gone, there's a red post box and a yellow house, and there's a barking dog always at the bottom of the lane, that's what Do you know what's funny though about that story about your grandmother and the garden? Before, when we was talking about gardens, and you went like this, my garden towards your head. That's what you, because I thought that's funny that she's gone like this with a garden. So isn't that funny? It's in there, isn't it? Yeah.
Love it.
Really interesting.
Grandmothers are so important.
Yeah.
What
You
about
still got
yours,
so
Kelly?
Well, I had, so my dad's mum, I never knew. She died when my dad was quite young. And then my mum's mum died when I was about 15. But she was not physically well for quite a long time. So I remember, we used to see them a lot, and we'd go and stay when we were little. But she was really, she was an really anxious person, and loved us and cared for us. Had been a seamstress, was an incredible, made clothes and beautiful things. But I, she taught me a lot in different ways. And I think they were kind of, my granddad lived till he was like nearly 90, but it was like, my mum always says he got to 65, and it was that the mindset of that generation was you retire and then you're old and you're worthless and you've got nothing to, and so I think that's part of the mission I'm on, to help be part of the story to change that, because as I'm experiencing myself post menopause, it's like I'm on fire. I'm like, come on. I'm not quite grandmother age yet. I'm 50s, but it's important. It's an important phase of our lives for ourselves and for the younger generation. And I guess the challenge is, like, how do we bridge the gap these days, because the gap seems so much wider because of all the technology.
I know. Yeah.
And the words. All the words.
All the lingo.
None of it makes sense. My mum did the same. She got to 60, and on her 60th birthday she went, I've had my life now, the Lord can take me whenever he wants. So I was like, Mum, don't say that. She died when she was 67. But every week she prayed to just die, because she thought there was nothing left. I mean, I want to live to at least 100, because there's so much to do. There's so much to experience.
Too much to do,
It's sad, isn't it?
It's tragic. That's the conditioning, right?
Yeah.
We have to change it.
Yeah.
We have to change it. Right?
I guess when you think about, like, when we were younger, what old people look like, and now we are of that age or approaching that age, and we're not like I always wanted to have like the purple rinse. I was like, I can't wait, I'll have a proper Mrs. Slocum, like being purple and just making it. But it's just completely changed now, and like we're much more vital, I think, even.
I'm working on the grandmother thing for the exhibition, because
that's an interesting thing.
So
because we've chatted about it.
My dad's mum killed herself when he was 5, and he found her, bless her. so I didn't know her. Don't know anything about her apart from her name and her dates, but I've never seen a picture of her. And then my mum was adopted to her auntie and her uncle. So that auntie was my grandma. She died when I was 12, but they didn't have a good relationship. The only thing I remember about her is she had a pantry full of Fray Bentos pies in tins and a really old ugly dog. Apart from that, I don't really remember anything. She didn't give me a legacy like your grandmother's. Fray Bentos pies. I am partial to a pie. But never mind that. So then last year, it was on your, you did an honouring the ancestors for Samhain, I think, last year,
yes.
and I was on that call.
I was.
And was you on that call as well? And this old woman, I don't know who she was, called Alice came in when you was talking about the ancestors standing behind you. This lady called Alice came, and I thought, who's the ex-Alice? So then I'd gone on my family tree.
I know a song about it.
I'd gone on my family tree, and Alice was a great auntie. And then from her, I found second cousins, and then I got in touch with them, and they said, oh no, I've got pictures of your real grandparents, that she was young, my mum's mum, the birth mum, she was really young and they didn't have much money, and that's why they had her adopted. But my mum was told she was the last one of 6 and they didn't want her. So that's what she'd grown up believing. Isn't that awful? And she died not knowing that. Anyway, which is really bad. But so now I've got a picture of my actual real grandmother. So which is really beautiful. So
Called Alice?
No, that was my great auntie. She was very
okay.
strict. Alice has gone. We've had her departed now.
Okay.
Because she was very bossy. We didn't want her in the house.
Okay.
No, what is she called? It's gone. My other grandma was called Veronica. My mum's adopted grandma was called Gertrude. I mean, that's a funny name, isn't it? Gertrude. I can't remember her name. It'll come to me. So my paintings are about the grandmothers which I didn't have, and I'm painting different aspects. So it's really interesting what you said. The different aspects of the grandmothers which I'd want, like the crazy
ideal
one.
grandmother.
Yeah. The crazy one that lives in the woods and knows a lot about plants and folklore, and a really nurturing, loving one. And so so that's the painting that I'm doing, and it's taken me on a journey.
But to me, it's more about the grandmother within you that's coming out as well.
Maybe I've not seen it as I'm painting.
Yeah.
Maybe it is because I'm connecting it back into, because the eggs that we've got in us are part from our grandmothers, aren't they, and our mothers to us, which is just phenomenal. So it's quite interesting. So I can.
It's like it's giving the young part of yourself something that she never had at the time.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's filling that hole.
Yeah.
And then when that's all integrated, it'll help you become the grandmother that you know.
That might never be. All of mine have said.
Oh
No.
grandmother in other ways, like we can mother without having children. I think we can grandmother without
I think so.
children.
I definitely think so.
But I went through a bit of a grieving process through menopause around that, actually. Like, I'd grieved not having children, even though it was partly a choice, conscious choice. There was still something to grieve around that. And then more recently, the like, oh, I'm never going to be a grandmother. Like, you know, when I've got a nephew now, so I watch my mum as, you know, grandmother to him, and kind of like just see how lovely that relationship is, and it's like, oh, I'm not going to have that either.
There's a sign in there. You can be a rented grandmother.
It's not quite the same.
No.
But yeah.
But yeah, like it's not. I think it's just it's important to grieve, like to acknowledge, like you saying, acceptance earlier, like that's not going to be a part of my life, and it doesn't mean it's wrong. There's nothing wrong with it, but I've experienced some sadness around that, you know.
It's almost taboo, isn't it, really, to feel like, because you're supposed to be positive and look on them, pull yourself together and things like that, but it's kind of honouring the light and the dark. So it's like honouring that we have night and day, we're diurnal. Diurnal's the word, isn't it? You do night and day, so we go to bed at night and we wake up during the day and we follow the
but
sun.
what happens when we go to bed at night? That's another story.
Travel to other places and work.
Yeah, but there's kind of a beauty in the darkness and the shadow, and it's like, I think for me that's also part of it, because coming into this phase of life is when kind of shadow works popped up and kept coming up, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to look more into this, and you know, I've not gone deep into it yet, but it's like every now and again I'll go in and do a little bit more and do a little bit more, and it is
I don't see it as dark, like I'll talk about death like as a light thing, and that's where I think people are not wrong, nobody's wrong, people differ in opinion. I don't see, even shadow work shouldn't be called shadow work. There should be another name for it, because people have these perceptions of what shadow means and dark, and it all has a negative attribute to it, and so I wish we could eradicate all that, but I don't think we can, because our languages have built and built and built, and we've made the dark and the light, we've ascribed things to them.
Do you think that's because of the natural way of the sun and the moon? You know, there is a dark in the night, there is a light in the day, and then if you start putting...
But in language we could have called the light dark.
Well,
it wouldn't have mattered. We can really go into it and really unpick it, but we could have called... It's just a word, is what I'm trying to say, is we could have called the light the dark. And vice versa, and then what would have happened?
We could.
Then light would have been the evil one.
I think why the shadow's the shadow though is because it's the unconscious. My shadow parts are the unconscious parts of myself that I haven't been able to see yet. Like that, I've put them away. They're underneath, and so the healing process is to bring them out of the shadow and into the light, so I can look at them, face them, feel them. Integrate those parts. I think that
I just thought your shadow's always with you as well, isn't it?
I don't think of shadow and light as good or bad. I think that we all have both.
Well, yeah.
And both is valuable.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. But you do need the light to have the shadow, don't you?
Yeah.
So you need to, you know, it's like that Dolly Parton song, isn't it? Like
your
it's a
shadow's
roller
always
coaster,
behind
and you've
you.
got to have the highs or you've got to have the lows to experience the difference in, you know, in the highs and things like that. So I think it's a Dolly Parton song anyway.
Is it?
She's a wise, a Dolly Parton, the wise woman.
Yeah,
she's a very wise woman. We love a bit of Dolly.
Yeah, it's so interesting.
I think shadow work can be a lot of different things to a lot of people as well. So I don't believe. I believe we all do the work we need to do in this lifetime, regardless of what we call it. And we all are on our wheel within a wheel within a wheel, doing exactly what we're supposed to do 100% of the time, and that's why we should just let it be and not worry about things too much, because we're always, and if we ever step off course, opportunities, things come in and they just put us back on course again. So I don't think we can go wrong, and in that there's a simplicity and a beauty in it.
There's a thing in there about a plane. When a plane takes off, it's off course like 90% of the time, and the pilot has to keep bringing it back to course until they land at the destination. And I always think of that we're off course loads of times and we keep bringing it back and we keep bringing it back, and it's the same thing. And there's that other thing of trusting what's coming. Like if you're driving on a dark road at night, you can't see the road in front of you. You can only see this bit, but you trust
that's all you need,
that it's there.
Yeah.
So you keep going, and that's like life, isn't it? You trust. I also think you can hold both things at the same time. So you could be working on your shadow or whatever anybody calls it, but also be happy and grateful that you're doing something joyous. Do you know? Not in exactly the same minute. That'd be weird. That'd be really weird. But you know, you can hold both truths. It doesn't have to be one or the other. That makes sense. Did you do a lot of that work with your psychotherapy? It was psychotherapy, wasn't it? Did you do a lot of that work then?
Yeah, I did. And it's been ongoing, of course. 20 years, you know, the inner journey for me is, it's almost like I live my life as an inner journey. I'm following my inner journey. But yeah, I went, I was working in the corporate world, and I was like, I don't want to wake up when I'm 50 and still be here, and you know, you can dress it up in all the corporate razzmatazz you want, but I'm still selling shampoo and toilet roll at the end of the day. But I wasn't sure what else I wanted to do, and so I knew I wanted to do something more people related. So I went into psychotherapy thinking I wanted to do it to help other people. 2 months in, the lid was just ripped off and out it all came. So and it's been a process since then. So I was adopted too.
Oh, okay.
And it was like it was all shut away in a box. And the story that I'd been told was my birth mother couldn't afford to keep me, so she'd given me away to have a better life. I've had a better life, aren't I lucky? That was it. It was like I was like, you know, disconnected, body feelings, lived life in my head, you know, studied, went the rational way. And so, and I think, you know, I think to your point, Cindy, yeah, I think we do we each do what we've come to do in this lifetime, right? And for me it was like, oh yeah, it's getting to the bottom of this, and then, you know, to kind of bring it back to Wise Woman, it's the wounded healer, the medicine woman aspect of Wise Woman. Like, we can't help heal someone else if we haven't had that experience, right? So it's not been an easy process, you know, that separation from birth mother, and and then lots, you know, childhood stuff like trauma in the nervous system, and learning ways and belief systems and behaviours to cope with all of that. But ultimately now I really see the gifts that have come out of those wounds. You know, I've gone through times where it's like, oh, I don't want to be adopted anymore, you know, like, why did I have to, you know, all of that. And now it's like, no, my birth mother and my adopted mother, the best teachers, not the easiest teachers, but it's given me, it's like the depth of that wound was so great that I had no choice but to go into it, and therefore it's given me it's opened a door into like just being passionately interested in how life works and how we work and how you know, how people work, how psychology works. And I trained in a transpersonal model, which incorporated, you know, mind, body, feelings, spirit. I mean, it just, yeah, it changed my life. It opened me up to so much, and then led to so many more magical adventures that, you know, I look back now and go, oh, I wouldn't change any of it for the world, you know. the people I've met, the experiences I've had, and that's kind of part of the drive for the Witches Revival, is to give, provide. Like, I've had all these great teachers and great experiences, as I know, we all have, and it's like, it's time to pass it on, right? So how do we create these spaces now for more women to come in? And that was one of the big kind of takeaways from the I Am Witch exhibition, the first one. It was like loads of the visitors. We had 2,500 visitors, and they were like, I want to do my version of this work. How do I do my version? So that's how the Witches Revival was born. So it's like a space where 200 women can come together and deep dive. We're going to hold hands, and we're going to go to some places, right? We're going to have we're going to do some work together, and my experience of that is the joy and the bliss and the level of connection that comes at the end of it. It's like
nothing beats
else.
a group of women.
Yeah.
Getting real. Nothing beats that.
Yeah.
And that is the word, isn't it? Connection, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because so many connections were made and so many wonderful conversations happened, and just knowing that you were in that space, and it was like this, I'm not alone. Other people feel this too, and feel it quite clearly, deeply as well, and it was just that, I'm not on my own. It was great. It seems like just an easy thing to feel, but it wasn't. It was really profound. So, yeah.
And you have a magical way of creating a space that hits all the things. So it hits all your senses. It's visually amazing. It's like heart opening. It's all the things, and that's
Womb
really
space.
Yeah, that's rare, Kelly. I've been to so many things and been disappointed, but when I came to yours, I was like, oh my God, this is it. This is it.
Aww.
Yeah, so good. So if anybody is thinking of coming, but they're on the fence, they're not quite sure, what words of wisdom would you give to them?
Come.
Just come.
Yeah,
just come.
Just experience it.
Just come, and
Invest in yourself.
yeah, and be part of the. I don't want it to. It's like we have to rewrite the narrative around the second half of our lives and post-menopause. It's not just for post-menopausal women. There's a lot there for younger women too. If nothing else, a map, right? For into the future. But it's about rewriting the narrative, and it's like I want every woman to leave feeling a stronger sense of herself and going back into her everyday life with something really useful for her family, community, and I know at these things, like so many, like you said, conversations happen, things start up, women's circles, projects, collaborations, lots of stuff is born out of it. So I just say, like, if there's something pricking, if your ears are pricking a little bit, or just get onto the website, have a look, and if you're feeling fear and nerves, that's a sign you need to be with us. There's lots of women coming on their own, and we're going to have a big opening ceremony every morning to kick it off and bring everyone together, so you're not be on your own for long. So
well, we'll see you there.
Yes, see you there.
So, a big thank you for having us in this wonderful space of yours.
You're very welcome.
And for sitting around the table chatting. Your own little wise woman. It's a mini. So for those of you who don't know, that rocking chair is sort of the little symbol on the Witches Revival, and that was passed to me, and I'm passing you your own little rocking chair.
So
and the postcards fit beautifully on it, so you could actually have some postcards on there.
They're right here.
Look.
Will they go through the hole?
Oh,
Oh, that's nice.
there.
Yeah.
There we go.
look at that. Thank you, Cindy.
It just came, it came to me and I thought, it's got another home, it needs to come to you.
We shall have that on the welcome desk.
There you go, that's what I thought, you'll have a use for it.
So yeah, thanks for being with us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So shall we do our little...
My pleasure.
Yeah.
Our blues are through, our bums are numb, until the next moon, we'll see you soon.